us something. The bottom line is this: it doesn't matter what your preacher looks like, and it doesn't matter how good his sermon is or how eloquently he preaches. What matters is that you see clearly in the reflection in the mirror of life in order to note that your church may have problems and that that problem is mired outside of the circumference of love. Look at what he says here. He says, "Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known." Knowing in part goes back to the original idea of the thing that passes away, but then knowing fully is the idea of where the church can be. To know fully is to know how to outreach the right way. That's living in love. To know fully is to know how to inreach the right way. That's living in love. To know fully is to know no matter what you are, who you are, or what you're doing it right because you live in love. I love you guys. And because of that, we at ATW live in love. We live in love because we care. We live in love because we know fully the essentiality of the message of love. We know fully how to become a victorious, triumphant, overcoming, successful church. We know fully the method of transportation that we have to use to get from this mess into the reality that Jesus Christ wants us to be. And that is love. We know how to get in that car, we know how to ride in that car, and we know how to stay in that car. Do you know why? Because we have been in places in our lives where we needed love, just as you are in a place in your life where you need love. Well, if you need love, your church needs love, your overcoming is all centered in the idea of a lack of love, let me tell you what you do. You put on some love. As a matter of fact, Paul closes his nice little sermon of 1 Corinthians 13 with these words. And he says, "And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Without faith, it's impossible to please God." That's what Hebrews 11 says. And faith is the substance of things hoped for, so faith and hope, and without them, it's impossible to please God, right? Well, that's what Hebrews 11 says. Here, out of nowhere, Paul hits us with theological ramifications that are so serious that everyone needs to shut their mouths and open their ears and focus on his words. Faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. I want to challenge you. In order to become a triumphant church, will you triumph in love? If you see someone today in your church service whom you know is going home to eat a ramen noodle, would you please love them enough to feed them something more substantial? If you see someone today who's having a hard time paying a bill, will you show them the love that they need and make that need for them? You have the ability in you and you alone to triumph. Your church has the ability, pastor, your church has the ability to triumph. But it will never be successful, not truthfully successful, until it buries itself in the great chasm of love. Thank you guys for joining us at ATW World Church. See you next week.